that it's good or that it's not excessive or intrusive. And more people will begin to question these things, and then also maybe, hopefully, some of these bureaucracies will be a little bit slower to purchase a great many of these machines. But I just think it's we've got this big elitist, out-of-control federal government now, and it's totally opposite from what our founding fathers thought the way things should be. They thought that we should solve most of our problems through the private free enterprise system, and then go to government only for a few things, and first to the local governments and then to the state governments, and have the federal government was meant to be only a government of last resort with very few and very limited powers. But what we've done in the last few years is turn the federal government into a government of first resort that we run to for almost everything, and it's just not working.
Absolutely. Representative John Duncan is our guest. Amazing. And he's there from the Knoxville area with his district in Tennessee. You can go to the House site and, of course, visit his site and read his writings and ideas. Are there any other websites, Congressman, that people can visit?
Well, no, they can visit my website, but and I speak out on these things all the time, and like I said, I certainly admire and respect the work that you're doing too, because it's going to take it's going to be very difficult to turn this monster around, but we sure need to do so. When you're talking about us facing a national debt of over $14 trillion, which is a mind-boggling figure, but what it means is it's an incomprehensible figure, but it means that it's not going to be long at all before we're not going to be able to pay all of our Social Security and veterans pensions and things we've promised our own people.
Absolutely. Sir, we're almost out of time, and will you promise to come back in the next few months?
Yes, I'll be glad to. I'm honored to be on here with you, and I'll keep listening to you every chance I have.
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left with you, Congressman. I want to finish up on the eve of Thanksgiving. We appreciate you joining us and your great record of promoting liberty in the House of Representatives. Talking about the New World Order. You know, Ron Paul, myself, you and others have been demonized over the years for being informed, reading UN documents, knowing about the CFR. Now, it's world government, new global taxes, carbon taxes to be paid to this SDR. We see the private central banks imploding countries. I do see a really big awakening. What's your message to the American people about this global government? And what's your view on where we're going? I mean, I believe we're starting to turn the corner and that real issues are starting to get on the table.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up because, I mean, now we're seeing the bailout that's having to be put together for Ireland. And earlier, a few months ago, we had to do one for Greece. And the American taxpayers are paying a lot of this bailout and don't even realize it because big portions of these bailouts are being paid through the International Monetary Fund.
Yeah, sometimes we pay more than half, as you know.
We shouldn't even be in the first place. But we see Greece and Ireland and they on NPR. I listen even to NPR, and this morning they were interviewing a couple of people from Portugal because they think they're next. Spain is next. We look around we see what's happening in California, and you can see what's coming. It doesn't take a genius to see the problems that we're headed into.
We've got to start saying no to these bankers.
That's right, and our children and grandchildren are going to face problems that so severe that we can't even imagine if we don't turn this thing around. And you talk about the New World Order. I remember when they found out that I was leaning against the war in Iraq. They had Condoleezza Rice and George Tenet, the head of the CIA, and John McLaughlin, his deputy director. They had me and 5 others down to a little secure room at the White House. And I told them at that time, I said, there was a front page story in the Washington Post. Lawrence Lindsay, the president's chief economics advisor, had said that day that a war with Iraq would cost $100 to $200 billion, and they fired him because of it. And I asked Condoleezza Rice about that, and she said, "Oh no, it wouldn't cost more than $50 or $60 billion, and we'd get some of that back from our allies." And how wrong she was about that. But I asked them that day. I said, if you can get past the traditional conservative position of being against massive foreign aid and the traditional conservative position of being against huge deficit spending, and against the traditional conservative position of being the biggest critics of the UN, and we were going to war to enforce UN resolutions. I said, if you get past all those traditional conservative positions, is there any evidence of any imminent threat? And they didn't have any. And what I'm trying to get across to you is that these things have been totally opposite or totally against all traditional conservative positions. And yet we've had too many Republicans in the Congress, good friends of mine, who've been supporting some of this stuff. But hopefully, with the Tea Party and the opposition that's popped up here in these last few months, hopefully, we've got more people realizing that we've got to do differently than we did when we had control during that 12 years.
Congressman, I know you've got to go. We've got a 1-minute break. Let me just say bye to you during the break, or see if we can come back and just have you briefly finish your thought.
Live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, he hails from the 2nd District of Tennessee, one of our oldest affiliates. Might even be 12 years we've been on it. Now, that's the great station, WBCR. And, of course, he's Representative John Duncan. He's got to go. He's got a lot of work to do, but he's promised to come back again soon. But you were intriguing me with the last point you were making, because that was on my list of questions I hadn't got to. As somebody who does score with the New American Magazine, who I really respect, with a 99, the second highest in Congress. Ron Paul has 100. There's one guy under you with a 95, but let's see if Rand can even get close to you, and we're certainly hoping that's the case. But looking at this new crop of House members and senators and where the Tea Party's going, my point is, Congressman, I see it as a victory regardless, because now issues of world government, issues of mega corporations wanting socialism, issues of rhino Republicans, all these things they've tried to demonize and make fun of as hokey, that's now the vanguard, at least on the surface, of Sarah Palin and all these people and Glenn Beck. They've at least got to take on our mantle of real patriots. That shows we're winning the intellectual battle. We're now identifying the private Federal Reserve. So I briefly wanted to, just in 2 or 3 minutes, get your view, Congressman, in closing on your prognosis of what you see with this new crop of Tea Party people and this fight for the heart and soul of real conservatism that we haven't really seen since the days of Barry Goldwater.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can do a lot more. The Democrats started the last Congress with an 81-seat majority, and when you have an 81-seat majority on the other side, you lose almost every key vote. But I've been speaking out for years against this big government, big business duopoly that's been running this country, that benefited just a very few people at the top. And in fact, what I've said for years, the only thing extremely big government is good at is slowly wiping out the middle class. And you can see that all over the world. And so that's what I'm concerned about. And I'm especially concerned about the loss of all the private property in this country, particularly through these land trusts and nature conservancies. I could talk to you about that sometime, too. Because
Agenda 21, how do we fight that? Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what, people have got to, I hope, wake up and realize that if you do away with private property, that you're doing away not only with a very important part of our freedom, but also a very important part of our prosperity. And also, we keep taking property, more and more property off the tax rolls. At the same time, the schools and the police and so forth are coming to us wanting increased funding, and that just doesn't work. I mean, the federal government now owns or controls over 30% of the land in this country, and state and local governments and quasi-governmental agencies own another or control another 20%. So you've got half the land in some type of public ownership, and that's a problem I guess we could talk about on another day. But
what's your view of the new crop of congressmen?
Well, my view is that it's going to be much better. The only thing, the new leadership in the House has said their goal is to try to cut $100 billion, and maybe that's the best we can do at this point. But if you think about it, $100 billion when we've got a deficit, when we've got a national debt that will reach $14.3 trillion this spring, it's sort of just a drop in the bucket. But we need to do as much as we can. And, we had that $862 billion stimulus package that didn't work. A CNN poll said only 7% of the American people felt it had helped them. But the reason was almost all of it, first of all, 41 or 42% had to be borrowed. And then most of it went to federal agencies. The Washington Post said it was going to be a massive windfall for federal agencies, and then to state agencies where government spends money the least
absolutely
efficient way possible. But thank you for having me on. It's been a real honor and privilege.
Representative John Duncan, have a great Thanksgiving. God bless you. Folks, we'll be back with your phone calls. God bless you, sir. Amazing talking to you. Great patriot there in the 2nd District of Tennessee.
Your mind.
Well, it's the eve of Thanksgiving, giving thanks for our free republic. I'm very excited about the TSA situation because it's showing people that they can get together, get angry, and have an effect. There are record numbers of people not flying. AAA reports that's making the system very mad. So they're running a spin that nobody's angry. This isn't a story. We're not putting our hands down your pants. There is no radiation. And we've got this latest article up at prisonplanet.com. I tell you, Paul Watson is just on fire over there. Big Sis wants behavior scanners at sporting events and malls. And she's also announced she wants TSA checkpoints. They've already been beta testing it. I told you it was coming. Now it's all over the news. DHS seeks to read maltent at interrogation checkpoints. Now, they just had one of these behavior experts, as they're called. That's in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, accused of kidnapping a woman. And they did get to his house and catch him. And he is a behavior detection officer. So I guess they'll take the people that think they're God or beat on their chest and say, I have power. Or a TSA employee based in Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport tried to kill himself after allegedly abducting a woman, sexually assaulting her, then giving her a suicide note. She was in the little outfit that he'd put her in and had the... what do they call it here? They call it the leopard pattern novelty handcuffs, where the sexual assault occurred. She escaped to the police department with a note from him saying he was going to commit suicide. And, I mean, I'm not kidding. It says the bound woman who was still bound in leopard print novelty handcuffs. So I guess this guy isn't a god, though, or he'd be getting away with this. So that's the new behavior controllers we're going to have. Big Sis wants behavior scanners at sporting events, malls. And, of course, they're also rolling out the 500 mobile scanners looking through your walls. And they have the National Guard out affecting 2,000-plus arrests in New York State alone. That's Fox News, driving people under scanners while they're in it. But, the government just waves a magic pixie dust wand like the Tooth Fairy and says, there's no radiation here. Everything's fine. You don't need a parachute to jump out of an airplane now. We say so. You don't need water to live in the desert. You'll live forever. We're the government. We say so. Look, we hired obese goons to stick their hands down your pants. We say so. Homeland Security Chief Janet Napolitano admitted yesterday that body scanners would eventually find their way into U.S. public transport, trains and boats. Big Sis is already trailing technology that goes even further. And I guess that's a British term. Sometimes he puts British isms in these articles. I don't understand. Big Sis is already trailing technology. We might want to call Watson and have him change that to testing, because I don't really get it. Ron Paul is not only an economist. Ron Paul is not only a doctor. Ron Paul is not only a baseball player. Ron Paul